As we wrap up the week, the Mets are calling up one of their top pitching prospects. You might be surprised at which one. Who is closing in Houston with the Josh Hader injury? And is Giancarlo Stanton the hottest hitter in all of baseball? I've got 10 players you need to add to your team on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominick Martino, riding solo today, as you can see if you're watching on YouTube. And if you are watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It's going to subscribe you to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Or if you're listening on the audio side of things, once again, please make sure you're subscribed. And if you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us as well. And lastly, but what's really going to help you win your fantasy baseball league is joining Matt and I on the Insiders Track, where we offer so much more than we can in these 30-minute episodes, including but not limited to instant prospect call-up notifications. And we got that new group of top prospects, which I talked about in yesterday's episode. Go check that one out if you haven't already. And we do our waiver wire episodes like we do today. We rank those guys for you and probably tell you how you should prioritize them when you're picking them up. So join us on the Insiders Track. The link is in the bio wherever you're listening, watching, and it's available on any of our social media platforms. And this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And all right, guys, let's get into today's episode. Like I said, action-packed episode today. And you know what? We talked about the prospect shakeup on, yesterday's episode. And, there's been so many of the prospects that got moved up and down, off the list, onto the list. And let's talk about somebody who's getting called up that was one of the bigger movers in the, shakeup on MLB's top 100 prospects. It is Nolan McLean, starting pitcher for the New York Mets. He is a big righty, 6'2", 214, and it looks like he's potentially getting the call to start this Saturday. I don't think it's been officially announced and or confirmed, but from all of the sources I've seen, it looks like the Mets are leaning towards McLean, who is 9% owned on Yahoo at the moment, and he is up to the 37th prospect in all of baseball, and for good reason. This season in the minors, the young McLean has started 18 games, pitched 21 overall, 2.45 ERA, 113 innings to 127 strikeouts. Batters are hitting 192 against him this season, and he has a 113 whip. He has been fantastic. He's known for that big slider. He also has, a plus curveball, plus fastball, and a plus cutter. The control's really always been the problem with McLean. He's gotten better with it this season. His fastball, tops out at, around 98, 99. He averages about 95, 96. We talked about, that slider sweeper has really a lot of elite spin, moves like in a way that batters can't see it well. It's just, he has a great repertoire, also talking about, the cutter and the curveball as well. For, a kid that's, 24 years old, has been around for a little bit, got drafted back in 2023, had a decent season in the minors in 24, but, as we talked about earlier, the control wasn't there. But, the young McLean looks like he is, going to be ready to go, get the big time shot here in New York. Personally, I want to add him, pretty much anywhere I can. It is against Seattle, and listen, Seattle has been very hot, one of the hotter teams in baseball, not as hot as Milwaukee, but, pretty hot out there in Seattle with Julio heating up, Cal Raleigh just leading the charge over there. They had bats like Suarez and Who else did they add? The Josh Naylor. How could I almost forget Josh Naylor? They just have a really good lineup over there. A lineup that's getting better than a lot of young boys in that Seattle lineup too. So I don't think it's a cakewalk type matchup for McLean, but McLean is definitely somebody I want to add in a world where, starting pitching it has gotten a little bit tough to find off the waiver wire. So to get a top 50 prospect called up here potentially to start Saturday for the Mets, one of the tougher teams, man. They can go out there on any night, score a bunch of runs. So, McLean could potentially get some wins as well if he gives us length in his starts. Just for reference, let's see how he's been in his last few starts. Not crazy amount of length. His last start, 4 innings, 1 earned run, did strike out 7. Before that was 5.2 innings, no earned run, 7 strikeouts. Strikeouts have been crazy for McLean, recently, but length has been something that has been inconsistent for McLean. I'm picking him up, though. Kind of just want to pick him up, top prospect, interesting pitcher. Let's see where it goes for Nolan McLean, starting pitcher for the New York Mets. Almost sounds like Lightning McQueen. So, maybe that's what we start calling him. Nolan McLean, once again, definitely somebody we should check into adding. Let's talk about nasty Nestor Cortes. Guys, I told you to stash him while he was hurt. He was down there having a good minor league rehab assignment, and he's been pretty good so far. And, nasty Nestor, like I said, so far through his first 2 starts back, 4.2 innings on August 6th against Arizona, gave up a couple earned runs in that one, 1.29 whip. On August 12th here, as I am recording on Wednesday, nasty Nestor, 4.2 innings, 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts, 1.5 whip. The control is going to be the last thing to come back. He's been out for a while, only 4 starts on the season, only 2 since he's returned. It looks like he gets a nice little rematch with the Giants early next week. He might be in for a 2-start week, possibly. Let's see who that next that second start might come against later in the week, because you know what? Nasty Nestor might be starting to get a little bit stretched out here. It looks like San Fran and the Dodgers. So that's not one of the 2 matchups are really nice in the points league. Nasty Nestor is definitely somebody I would throw out there. In other leagues, at least you get the daily leagues, you get the luxury of throwing Nasty Nestor out there. The first one, pull him back for the second start if you don't need the stats. Nestor Cortes, 22% owned on Yahoo. Definitely somebody I'm interested in seeing what he can do down the stretch. If he gets stretched out, starts seeing more 5, 6, 7 inning starts from him down the stretch, because the Padres have no reason not to let the Nestor Cortes pitch. You know what I'm saying? I think they kind of just want to let him ride and see what he could do for them. So definitely somebody, like I said, in a world where starting pitching off the waiver wire has been tougher and tougher to find, Nestor Cortes is somebody that I think down the stretch will be useful in most formats. I would say your 12-man leagues and deeper, definitely. Anything shallower than that, probably looking elsewhere for nasty Nestor. Let's sneak one more guy in here. Let's talk about a New York Yankee. We go from a former New York Yankee to a current New York Yankee. Let's talk about Will Warren. Will Warren, man, as a Yankee fan, I've been somewhat impressed by what he's done this year. It hasn't been a bad, showing on the season for Mr. Will Warren, but, still definitely would have liked to see a little bit more, especially as I sit here and look at the underlying stats on Baseball Savant, and it doesn't really look great. He has been good over his last 2. That's what's maybe giving me these rose-colored glasses with Will Warren. On the season, those 25 starts, 7 wins, a 4.34 ERA, a 1.37 WHIP, 122 innings, 140 strikeouts. So even if you go through Will Warren's last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 starts, I'm only mad at one of them. I'm only mad at one of them out of the last 7. If you do the last 9, I'm only mad at 2. So 7 out of his last 9 starts have been, pretty solid for Will Warren. He goes out there, it looks like Sunday against the Cardinals. Nice little sneaky start. The Cardinals aren't really scaring me too much. 49% owned for Will Warren. I think we could sneak him out there, get some good strikeouts, maybe 2, 3 earned runs. The whip, on a start-to-start basis, it's very volatile. So wouldn't be shocked if he went out there and had, a 1-2 whip, 1-3 whip, anything higher than that. I wouldn't say too much higher than that, but Will Warren, definitely somebody we could throw out there on Sunday if we need the stats and you want to stream them, right? But with that being said, I have some more names coming up like Christian Javier, and then also a couple of his teammates who's closing in Houston with the Josh Hader injury, and then we'll get into bats. Those names and more coming up next. And all right, guys, I want to talk to you about my friends over at Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you just stop managing your money and start building your wealth. With their surprising insights, me personally, when I first started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. With their easy collaboration, managing your money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Once again, that's monarchmoney.com. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. And all right, guys, before we jump back into the episode, just want to mention, I know it's tough this time of year with fantasy football coming around. You get fatigue from baseball in general, even if you don't play fantasy football. And if you just want an easy way to potentially win your league, join Matt and I on the Insiders Track, where we're basically going to be your little cheat code, with everything being so stressful, this time of year. Matt and I are going to send you those text messaging alerts going right to your phone with those instant prospect call-up notifications. We're also going to, let you guys, ask us any questions, that you may need be, to ask. We're going to give you our waiver wire players ranked when we do these episodes, telling you how you should prioritize them when you're picking them up. And then, hey, listen, I'm not going to tell anything, but if you got a fantasy football question, hey, might be able to answer those too. So come and check us out on the Insiders Track. The link's in the bio wherever you're listening, watching, and it's available on any of our social media platforms. But without further ado, let's keep this episode moving along. And one more starting pitcher for you guys. Christian Javier makes the episode once again. Another guy that we kind of talked about being a stash option over the past couple of weeks. I personally wasn't super confident in it, but, Javier had a very good showing in his first start against a Boston team that, can hit any night against anybody. 5 innings, got the win. Javier did 5 strikeouts. Once again, it was a couple of earned runs and 1 whip. And that was against Boston once again on August 11th. Christian Javier gets the Baltimore Orioles on August 17th. That's this Sunday. So once again, you got Will Warren, who's an option. You got Christian Javier, who's an option for this Sunday. I like them both. Javier is less owned at 23% owned than Will Warren. So you know what? You got 2 little sneaky starting pitcher ads that you could go out there and throw out on Sunday if need be necessary. And Javier, the velocity's back up on the fastball, back around that velocity that he was sitting at, and I think it was 22 or 23, where he was very, very successful. So Javier is somebody that, hey, listen, if the repertoire and the pitches are looking like they did when he was at his prime, hey, I definitely want him. I had him, back in those years, and I, unfortunately wasn't able to add him in, too many leagues I'm in. Shout out to my brother JP, who, as I look, literally has him in every league that I'm in with him. So good ad there, for anybody. Definitely endorse that Christian Javier ad heading into Sunday, just to see what he could do against this Boston team, see if he can keep that ball rolling. Now, as I mentioned, what's going on with the Houston Astros bullpen? Josh Hader thrown to the IL. He's going to be out for a little bit, getting a second opinion on his shoulder strain, and definitely won't be back when his 15 days are up. I think we're looking at some really bad news here with Hader. I don't think he's back for the rest of the season. It's sad. So 2 options here: Brian Abreu and Bennett Sousa. I don't know. Abreu is the better pitcher overall, in all honesty, in my opinion. So I don't know if that's what Houston wants to do. I think their manager actually came out and, made a statement. Joe Espada, who is the manager of the Astros, said Tuesday that he's not naming anyone for the 9th. Brian Abreu's numbers, though, on the year, it's 53 appearances. He has 3 wins, hasn't actually gotten a save yet. 1.67 ERA, 104 whip, 54 innings pitched, 79 strikeouts. So Abreu's been very, very good. He's up to 42% owned on Yahoo. Let's look at Sousa. This really might wind up being a committee. So Bennett Sousa, 6% owned on Yahoo. His numbers also really good on the season. 41 appearances, 5 wins, 4 saves, 2.64 ERA, 103 whip, 47 innings pitched, 54 strikeouts, 6% owned on Yahoo. So I don't know, man. Bennett Sousa actually got the save on August 11th. And that's after having a bad outing on August 10th. I might be leaning Sousa. I think Brian Abreu gets more of the high leverage situations where it could be a high leverage situation in the 9th where, you have, the 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5 of the lineup coming up. But more often than not, especially if it's like a 1-1 game in the 7th inning, Houston's going to bring in Abreu, especially if it's in a good against a good team. You might see Abreu get an inning, an inning and a third, an inning and 2/3, and, maybe Sousa handles the rest. So he's already got 4 saves and 5 wins on the season. So it kind of just says to me that I don't know if Houston wants to rock the boat and change what they're doing. Doesn't mean Abreu sees no saves and Sousa gets them all. And it doesn't mean that Sousa gets all the saves and, Abreu gets none. But I think it's a committee. I lean towards, Bennett Sousa getting the saves in the 9th and Abreu getting the high leverage situations a little bit earlier. Abreu still might see a save here or there. That's just my thoughts based off Abreu having 3 wins, no saves, and Sousa having, 4 saves, 5 wins. Just my thoughts on what's going on there in the back of that Houston bullpen. And let's get into the bats. Let's do some bats here. Let's talk about Giancarlo Stanton. Come on, guys. I think this is Stanton's 3rd time on the episode since returning from injury, maybe 4th time on the must-add episodes. He's up to 48% owned, so I will say that you guys that are still playing are doing a good job getting him owned. But it's a pause the podcast moment. Stanton is in prime form. If he's out there in any of your leagues at all, it's a must-add. He's getting back in that lineup steadily. He's played the last 5 games in a row. 5 games in a row as I record here on Wednesday, August 13th. He went 4 for 5 on August 12th with a homer, 3 RBIs. August 11th, 2 for 4 with a homer and RBI. On August 9th, 1 for 2 with 2 RBIs. So Stanton's just been literally one of the hottest hitters in baseball, if not the hottest. Home runs coming at, nauseum in a good way. So 42 games played on the season for Stanton. He is hitting 320 runs, 12 homers, 34 RBIs. He's been otherworldly on another planet right now. He's looking like, back like prime Stanton. Can't guarantee he stays healthy the rest of the way, but man, when Stanton's on a tear like this, I want him on all my fantasy teams. Of course, the underlying stuff looks great for what he does. Batting average, not so much. I don't think he'll keep the 300 batting average. Don't think he'll keep that up, but we've seen Stanton hit 270 plus before in the past. Definitely think it's something in his repertoire. So Stanton, for me, might be my favorite guy of the whole episode. Something, someone that we all need to look into for sure. But with that being said, guys, we got names like Sal Frelick, Chandler Simpson, Ernie Clement, and Francisco Alvarez. We got to talk about his monster game. Those names and more coming up next. And all right, guys, I want to talk to you about my friends over at 5 Hour Energy, right? Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course to a non-alcoholic boost. Perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game, whether you're on the course or you just need a little extra push to power through your day. 5 Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors. The grape, ginger, lime flavor of 5 Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go to, once again, without leaving the course or having to chase down that bev cart. Now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, or enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the U.S. Tee up that trip. Visit 5-h-e-win.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. And all right, guys, let's keep things pushing. Let's talk about this next bat, and it's Sal Frelick of the Milwaukee Brewers, the hottest team in baseball, riding a 12-game winning streak. Honestly, any part of this lineup that you can get your hands on, I'd take it. With Frelick being no exception, 104 games played on the season, 293 batting average, 53 runs, 9 homers, 45 RBI, 17 steals. Frelick over the last 3 has been really hot. He's 2 for 3 as I'm recording here, or went 2 for 3 as I'm recording here on Wednesday, August 13th. 4 runs, 2 RBIs, a steal. Frelick on August 12th went 2 for 4, 3 runs, 2 RBIs, a homer. Went 1 for 4 on August 11th with a run and an RBI. He's just been really, really good. He's been leading off again of late. I'd honestly pick Frelick up at this point, 32% owned on Yahoo. He's playing pretty much every day, has played in all of Milwaukee's last 7 games. We talked about Frelick a few times this year. Batting average is legit. Speed's good. You're going to score a decent amount of runs out of the leadoff spot there in Milwaukee, helping you a good amount plus in 3 out of the 5 major hitting categories. Don't really think there's much else to say about Frelick. He's going to be an interesting guy. I want to see where he's going in fantasy drafts next year. I'd feel comfortable with him in like your standard 12-man league as maybe like a nice utility bat, or, maybe in those 15s like an OF3. But the sprint speed is legit. Batting average is, I don't know if he's a 290 hitter, maybe more like a 275 hitter. Kind of almost like a Steven Kwanish kind of bat is Sal Frelick. That's what I would give him, a nice little comp to. So definitely somebody that we could sneak in and add there. Once again, Sal Frelick of the hottest team in all of baseball, Milwaukee Brewers, 32% owned on Yahoo. Let's move on to Chandler Simpson, one of my favorite young bats in the game right now. I'm glad he's getting a chance to play over there in Tampa. Also, moved to the leadoff spot here tonight, back to the leadoff spot here tonight after having a couple of hot games. So Chandler Simpson on August 11th went 3 for 3 with a steal. On August 10th went 2 for 5 with a run. And before that, Simpson had really, cooled off. Still hitting 298 on the season with 72 games played, 32 runs, no homers, 16 RBIs, 33 steals. I think Chandler Simpson needs to be owned everywhere. He's such a cheat code at steals, scores a good amount of runs, can hit for a solid batting average, has proven it to us this year. Even the underlying stuff for batting average believes in it. Just he's such a weird type of player because he doesn't whiff a lot, doesn't strike out a crazy amount. He's still only 24, kind of finding his way in today's game. Just really has a lot of D Gordon in the bat. If you've been playing baseball for a while, or D Strange Gordon is what he wound up changing his name to. Not really an empty power, doesn't really give you any power, but can win you the steals category on a week-to-week basis if you play in a daily league or, those kinds of leagues where, it's a weekly matchup kind of league. And it's just going to be a cheat code. And in the steals department, can hit for a 300 batting average. And if he's hitting leadoff, 32 runs scored in 72 games played isn't really too bad. And I think he can continue to score a lot of runs. So as long as your team's covered in home runs and RBIs, and if you need steals, batting average, or runs, I think Chandler Simpson is definitely somebody you need to look his way, especially if he was dropped in any of your leagues after cooling down. And I think Tampa gave him quite a few days off. So I know I literally was prepping for the episode, saw he was dropped, and one of my important leagues snagged him up because I said, I know Chandler Simpson's going to get hot again, and he's going to start stealing some bases at a clip not many other players can do in today's MLB. Let's keep things pushing. Let's move to Ernie Clement, man. He's been another bat that's just been tearing it up, and so has that Toronto Blue Jays baseball team. Ernie Clement plays literally every infield position besides catcher. First, second, third, and short for Ernie Clement on Yahoo. When it comes to eligibility, he has played 118 games this year. Clement is hitting 288 over those 118 games with 64 runs, 9 homers, 39 RBIs, and 3 steals. He's 45% owned on Yahoo, and he's just been on fire. On August 6th against the Colorado Rockies, went 4 for 7 with 4 runs, a homer, and an RBI. Against the Dodgers on August 9th, had a big game, went 2 for 4 with a homer. Clement has literally homered in 3 straight games. Hasn't homered yet as I'm recording here on Wednesday, but they're in the bottom of the 6th. So there's a chance that Clement makes it 4 straight games. But like I said, as I'm recording today, has homered in 3 straight. A bunch of RBIs, been really just been productive. We even went 5 for 6 on August 4th as well. 2 for 3 before that. The batting average has just been a plus. He's got some power. He's hitting in a good spot in the lineup most nights, been hitting second. So the runs, at 64 runs, 118 games is not too shabby. So Ernie Clement, definitely somebody we can look into, especially if, if you play in a daily league where you can move Clement around or just have him on your bench and you can move him, play him at first, second, third, short. Really love just the cheat code, the multi-positional eligibility for a guy like Ernie Clement, and playing for one of the hottest teams in all of baseball, the Toronto Blue Jays. Not a bad ad right now, especially this time of year. You can get a guy that plays 4 different positions. Let's move on to the last guy of the episode. Let's talk about Francisco Alvarez. We started with a New York Met and we finished with a New York Met. I always love a nice bookend, so that's the one for you guys. Francisco Alvarez heating up, went 3 for 4 on August 12th with 2 homers, 4 RBIs, and 3 runs. This is what I want to see Alvarez do, man. I'd rather Alvarez be a 220 hitter where he hits 30 home runs than, try and, hit for batting average, at least for fantasy purposes, right? For the real, New York Mets team, this might be what they want him to do. But Alvarez has a lot of power in that bat, man. He hits the ball really hard. I genuinely think there's 30 home run power in Francisco Alvarez's bat. I just don't know if we ever see it or the Mets ever let him run it loose. But, up to 51 games played on the season for Alvarez, 254 batting average, 20 runs, 6 homers, 19 RBIs. He's 16% owned on Yahoo. I know we've talked about catcher a lot this season and how pretty much everybody has a decent catcher at this point. But if you're playing 2 catcher leagues, NL onlys, and Alvarez is still out there, after this 2 home run game on August 12th, it's giving me some hope that Alvarez can start tapping into the power that we know is there. He's 5'10", but 233, big muscly dude, 23 years old. I just genuinely think going into the 2026 season and potentially finishing the 2025 season, Alvarez could be somebody who taps into this power, and he could be very, very fantasy useful. But guys, that is all for today. Shout out to our everydayers and new listeners for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. And for your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcast. So guys, until next time, see you.